Namaste. Welcome to the Advaita channel. Today I'll be reading Gangaji, but first we'll start with a little music. This is from Omkara, Infinite Dance.
Something somewhere within is touched at the first kiss of sunlight. A new bottle opens. It gives up its fragrance, its beauty, its life in complete surrender. It lets go into the unknown. Welcome to the infinite dance. Welcome home to the unknown. Where is my light? Where is myself? Where can I go now? Where I am not. Your kiss has removed me, and now I am nothing. All that remains is you. Joy in my heart, silence and bliss. Behind all appearances, who is here? Who is here? Watching all this, behind whose eyes what is looking? Look deeply into the mirror of your own soul. What do you see? This is your clue. What do you see? This is your clue. See, and you are
Okay. So today I'll continue to read from the Diamond in Your Pocket with Gangaji. And if there's any comments or questions, those can be posted in the YouTube chat. We're on chapter 51. Freedom is facing death. There are all kinds of deaths. There is the death of every moment. There is the death that occurs every night when you drop off into sleep. The death of a relationship ending, and the death when a child leaves home. But the death I would like you to turn your attention to now is physical death, the end of your physical life form. In Western culture, the inevitable death of the body is usually avoided, denied, or artificially dressed up in some way. In that avoidance, the treasure that death reveals is lost. In your willingness to experience the certainty of your own death, true self-inquiry is possible. As you are reading this, you have the privilege right now to actually consider the end of your life. You can put aside all physical and mental rituals and strategies that construct your life and meet the reality of the end of your life. In this moment, you can stop everything and inquire deeply and truly into who you are, as if death were imminent. You can take this time to actually reflect on what your life has been about, on what is important and what is not. You can speak honestly to yourself. In this moment, you have no reason to lie. The spiritual path is actually a path of death, a path of loss. Many people begin the spiritual search looking for attainment, but true spiritual attainment is revealed through the loss of everything. If you can investigate the loss of your life now, before death comes to take it, you have the possibility of dying freely, in peace, losing something very precious, yes, but gaining more in the capacity to meet the loss head on. The presence that animates your form is the same presence that animates all form. After the death of the body, that presence remains. Waking up to yourself as that presence results from the willingness to meet the death of every form, including your own. Everybody will die, just as the planet will someday die, just as all thought, all emotion, and all experience die. As the body ages, the truth of death becomes more and more apparent. No matter what you might do to preserve the body's health, energies are lost and unrecoverable. Finally, the irrevocable truth is that the body will die. The sooner this can be faced, the greater the possibility of realizing what remains free of death. Since most of us humans have identified ourselves as individual bodies, death becomes the event to be avoided at all costs, even at the cost of our integrity and souls. I invite you to look within your life right now. See if you have sold your integrity and soul for some notion of survival of the body. This is basically what the desire to be good is about. You desire to be good so that nobody will hurt you, so that you will fit in, so that your body will survive. The same can be said about the desire to be knowledgeable or attractive. This is why it is also important to fully experience your own badness, your own stupidity, and your own ugliness. You must experience the polarities that are at the core of your conditioning. Just after you have the thought, I am somebody, some variation on the thought, I am somebody good or I am somebody bad arises. Your heart of heart knows that both are lies. In this knowing, you can honestly inquire without the body, without the qualities of goodness or badness, without the feelings, without the thoughts. Who am I? I invite you now, this moment, to die before your body dies, to recognize your attachment to your body and to face its inevitable end. And in this facing, to tell the truth about who you really are. If you are willing to stop for one moment and face death, you will have some time to see what life is like when you have met the reality of the death of the form. What is the experience of life when there is no you left? What is the experience of problems when they are not your problems? To meet our death while the body is still alive is counterintuitive, contrary to our conditioning as organisms designed to avoid pain and fear. We normally listen to fear because it is part of the survival mechanism of the human body. There is nothing wrong with that. But self-inquiry takes the mind deeper than what is right for survival. Once the desire arises to truly be free, the question of what survives after the body dies is more important than simply surviving. Then we can meet death. Am I talking about suicide? No. To meet death is not suicide, nor is it the least bit dangerous. It only seems dangerous. What is dangerous, what is a living suicide, is to live your life in bondage to the belief that you are limited to a body. As long as you resist the fact of death and hide from death through the tricks of the mind, you will suffer. In the recognition that death is simply the cessation of all experience, you can actually invite death now. Who are you? Are you a body? Teachers tell you that you are radiant consciousness, that you are the light, the truth, but you must recognize who you are for yourself. Otherwise, whatever anyone says is just another addition to the story of who you believe yourself to be. True, lasting recognition is not just an addition to a collection of spiritual experiences. Do you have the courage to be who you truly are? To die to your conditioning? This is a huge question that should only be answered with serious examination. You cannot live fully until you are willing to die fully. And you cannot die fully until you are willing to meet the fear of death fully. If you really meet the fear of death, you are at peace. You recognize what cannot die. I am not speaking of reincarnation because the hope that you will reincarnate is still rooted in a fear of death. I invite you to ask yourself the questions that are really the heart and core of all true self-inquiry. What is it that dies when the body dies? Who is it that dies? Who is asking these questions? Inquire deeply into yourself. Look closer and closer. So I'll read those again. What is it that dies when the body dies? Who is it that dies? Who is asking these questions? You can take a few minutes to sit with that inquiry. Experience the energy, attention, and effort that it takes to keep death away. Are you aware of the fear of being nothing, of no longer existing? Right now, let your consciousness sink into the core of that fear. Let yourself be nothing right now. All is finished. All is over. What is left? What remains when everything is gone? When everything is gone. Who are you? Chapter 52, the seriousness of your intent. Everyone at some point in their life has been mysteriously, luckily, touched by the power of grace, whether they recognized it in that moment or not. The moment that you recognize it, you think, my God, what grace! Maybe before that moment, you only knew grace as a concept. But when you experience it, it is alive and real. The Holy Spirit is alive and real, and you know it because you have been touched by it. That moment of grace is a mystery. There is nothing you could have done to deserve it. Perhaps you believe it to be a predestined moment in a predestined lifetime in which you have been selected by grace. Yet in my years of speaking with people, and I have been to both prisons and churches and have met with both intellectuals and the uneducated, I have found that grace leaves its mark everywhere, with no apparent concern for karma, religious practice, accomplishment, or intellectual understanding. If you know you have been touched by grace, you are wise to assume that you could not fully deserve it. Now, what is your responsibility? What is the responsibility of individual consciousness to the absolute consciousness that has made itself known through grace? How do you respond? I sometimes refer to this responsibility as the seriousness of your intent, the intent to break through conditioned existence, to realize true freedom, to surrender fully to the power and the force of grace. I don't mean seriousness as something humorless or heavy. The intention to realize true freedom is definitely joyous, but it is not trivial. If it is trivial, then there is no possibility of breaking through conditioned ignorance. When grace or freedom is just another thing, there is no possibility of unwinding egoic identification. With the serious intention to truly be free comes the recognition that nothing is more important than freedom. Nothing. Not pleasures, health, relationships, accomplishments, or understanding. And when nothing is more important, the waves of the mind part and conditioned existence loses its hold. The only hold conditioned existence has is the importance that your mind gives it. Giving importance to conditioned existence means continuing to pursue all that you have learned you need to be happy, whether that involves mental learning, conditioned emotions, or physical instincts. If any of that is more important than the desire to be completely free, then your response to grace is less than complete. You will, of course, dip into the ocean of peace and freedom. You will have wonderful experiences, magical experiences, experiences of ecstasy and bliss, but you will never have full and complete self-recognition until your intention is 100%. If you are drawn to the fullness, the completeness, and the totality of the freedom you have glimpsed, if this is more important than dipping into personal pleasure and power, then the seriousness that is demanded must be the priority of your life. If it is not, then conditioned desires will retain their power. We have both latent and blatant ideas of what will make us happy. Even though grace may reveal itself as the purity and joyousness of our true nature, we have a tendency to cling to our learned desires. I have heard it time and again. Yes, I want freedom. I really want freedom. And I really want a good relationship. I want a beautiful place to live. I want financial security, and so on. Please understand that there is nothing wrong with these desires. But if what you really want is freedom, recognize that any desire other than the desire for freedom will bleed attention from the potential for realizing freedom in this moment. If you want truth to give you something, it is not truth you want. It is the thing you want. And that thing has everything to do with power, sex, or survival, the three matrices of bodily desire. Maybe the promise of the thrill of some kind of personal enlightenment has brought you to the door of inquiry. But if you find that door still closed, it is time to tell the truth. Waking up to your true nature promises to give you nothing. In wanting only to wake up, you find everlasting freedom, joy, and the bliss of being. Tell the truth about what you want, what you are seeking under the guise of enlightenment or self-realization. Profoundly examine your motivation. What are you really, seriously intent upon? What you find can be humbling. If you discover pockets of intent that have nothing to do with freedom, truth, or God, then you have a choice to shift attention to freedom. If in fact you want to hold on to something a little bit longer in the arenas of power, sex, and survival, if you want to milk a little more pleasure from things, then tell the truth. There is a moment of truth that is profound, where if you truly want freedom, you are willing for your whole life to end right now. You are not waiting another moment. Only truth is important. This is seriousness of intent. Chapter 53, Intention and Surrender. The intention to be free can lead you home through the worst hells, even through a lifetime of hell. The intention itself is the light that says, home is here. It is not an ordinary intention having to do with some desire to get something. It is of an altogether different order. It is the truest teacher in your life. It asks you to give over your self-hatred, your hatred of others, your blaming, justifying, grasping, and rejecting to the intention to be free. You can spend much of your life resisting the call of freedom, fighting it, running from it, denying it, disbelieving it, or imagining it to be unimportant. This resistance is the crux of your suffering. Astonishingly, your intention creates the clarity to see or seek help with your particular habits of suffering. That clarity brought you to this point, and it will take you where you need to go next. To trust that intention is to trust life. How you make use of the people who appear in your life, as well as the circumstances, thoughts, emotions, and contradictions, is up to you. You have absolute and complete choice. I do not mean this as another New Age version of, quote, I am choosing to create my reality. I mean choosing how your current reality can be used by your intention to be free. A glimpse of the true nature of your being is like a kiss from the divine. The kiss itself is a mystery of grace. There is nothing you could have done to create it. Rather than bow at the feet of this blessing, you often form a plan to take it and create your reality with it. Inevitably, any attempt to co-opt this blessing, even with the most altruistic intentions, will manifest yet another experience of the divine's slap, a necessary humbling of the newly inflated, enlightened mind. If the slap itself is really surrendered to, then the blessing of the slap is just as deep as the blessing of the kiss. If it is truly surrendered to, you fall on your knees and give thanks for this slap. You give thanks for the exposure of the tendency to try to own truth, the tendency to try to possess what is always free. You will recognize that your life is blessed beyond belief. It is also a common occurrence to want more of the sweet kiss and the bliss of freedom. When you are totally fulfilled, you are totally in love. And when you are totally in love, you do not say, well, I've had enough of love. Instead, you say more. But if the mind co-opts the love, then more is determined by an agenda, an image, or a plan of where more can be found. Love is free. Freedom is free. Where you look for more is where you found it to begin with, which is right here, wherever you are. There is always more here, because more is the space of your own openness. We are trained to think that we know what we should be doing with the grace of the gift of self-recognition, this treasure of true freedom. Here is where surrender and vigilance come into play. It feels safe to plan how to integrate it, channel it, or serve it in some way. But any plan is based on an idea that you know what to do with the vastness that has blown your concepts apart. And this is again the arrogance of the inflated ego. Papaji often cited a quote from the writings of the Sufi poet Kabir, who said that he once experienced reality for 15 seconds, and the rest of his life was spent in obedience to that. The challenge is to surrender to not knowing how your life will be used, or even if your whole life will fall apart. The opportunity is to surrender to something much bigger than what you have called your life, to discover how your life can be a response to the invitation to live fully as a servant to freedom. Serving freedom is quite different from serving ideas of your freedom. Doing what you want because it makes you feel free is not the same as responding in service to what is free already. Surrender is the call from within to fully, absolutely realize yourself as freedom itself. The challenges are huge. They must be. Otherwise, we would trivialize this experience just as we have trivialized so many experiences of love. The surrender must be total. Anything less is a form of self-torture in the name of safety. Living fully as one, as all, is its own safety. The safety is in knowing that when this particular life form is finished, what it has served remains. All you need is to trust the peace that is revealed and to be willing to discover freshly at the core of each form of limitation the boundless, limitless perfection of lasting peace and freedom. What remains when all else passes is trustworthy. If you trust thoughts, events, or people to give you safety, you will be disillusioned. If you do not have an abiding recognition that you are already free, just as you are, wherever you find yourself, then your mind is still involved in a story. Maybe it is one of the deeper stories. To examine that story, you can inquire directly within, what do I need to be free? Take a moment to consider the strong possibility, even the certainty, that all these stories are lies made up through the imaginative power of the mind. What if nothing is needed for freedom? So that seems like a good place to end. It seems important to follow Gangaji's pointing. We have some time. So let's take a few minutes to follow that pointing, to inquire within, what do I need to be free? We can take about 10 minutes. And as our teachers have said, anything that rises up as an answer, to see that that is the mind trying to produce an answer. To just keep looking beyond anything that sounds like words, thought, feeling, sensation, to just keep looking. To look at the silence. To just stay with the looking. We'll end with some music. So beautiful to sit together. Thank you to our beloved Gangaji. Thank you, beloveds, for joining today. So beautiful to be in this way together. Mujiji ki Jai. Anantaji ki Jai. So much love.